Hello. Um, comment. I still unsure of how to do these intros and stuff, but yeah, I little life update for me. I'm currently sick right now, as I just started back gym too. You know, caught the cold. Assignments have been catching, trying to gang up on me, but I got them hands. So as I'm coming down to my last 2 weeks of the semester, kind of wanted to get back into a little bit of a yap, as I think the brunt of it is kind of gone now, and I'm pretty much sure of what I'm supposed to be expecting for my last two assignments. My candle my sister got. Smell of it seems like it's pretty much gone. It's supposed to be cranberry woods, but yeah, the smell is it's pretty gone. So, I wanted to come on here to talk about Cyberpunk and why it scares me. I don't know if anybody has seen the show. Um, s- Cyber. Is it not? It's not called Cyberpunk. Ghost Runners. Um, uh, I think it is called Cyberpunk. Yeah, Cyberpunk. They have a new season coming out soon on Netflix to show a game about um basically living in, I guess you can say, like a city or a poor city um in just a city. See, yeah, so I just checked the name. Yeah, this goes have about Androidas. Yeah, I watched it about a year ago, and a good couple of months. I can't remember the particular time. It had come out. It had came out a little bit earlier before that, but yeah, it takes place essentially in a world where this tech heavy world, with a highly capitalist um society, well, run by a company called Araco, and the show kind of follows this main character called David. I'm not too familiar with how the story of the game goes, but it's somewhat, it wouldn't be too deviant from, I guess, what the show had covered, where this kid David, he's going to, he's like 16 or whatever, going to school by with his mom, no dad in his life, and he's going to school. He's not the richest kid, um, and he's kind of again like kind of gets picked up. He's not pushover in a sense either, what you get from him, but essentially, with an accident that basically gets his mom killed, and his mom was basically like carrying the brunt of his like financial situation, the apartment they're living in, whatever, whatever. When she dies, he basically got fuck all. Like the way how they handled her passing was like, yeah, she just, here's your mom in a little urn, and you just get this shit, and then it's like, oh yeah, bills to pay immediately after. And he basically ends up having to take up this life that kind of requires him to um that kind of leaves him to destruct well, not destruct, but destroy that kind of path that his mom was leading him on to, and have to make some very risky decisions to basically like kind of push himself towards a sense of greatness that he knew that he could achieve through his own potential. But because of the circumstances that kind of pushes him towards his potential, which is, taking risky endeavors, dropping out of his school. It was a really prestigious school, as you know, yeah, I think it was like Rocco's private school or whatever. And yeah, he basically becomes like very popular, not popular, but like a quote unquote hero for his like town, his neighborhood, for this gang that he ends up running with. He finds love, he finds all these things, but even though I've described, I guess, like a coming of age story, it's a very depressing. It's very, it's it ends on one of the most tragic and heart wrenching um endings that a story can have. And yeah, I think the story of what Cyberpunk kind of tells, especially to even men nowadays, um, is that we should really be scared of what we're pushing towards, as what are we creating, as in my timeline or reality, you know AI is becoming more and more prevalent. Tech is becoming more and more prevalent. The phone that I'm recording this on, the TV screen that is literally right behind my phone that I use every day, the screens that I have to use for necessity every day. It's only a matter of time, and that, something that also kind of push towards this idea of what we're heading towards is another show. Me and names, bro. With this girl, I'll put up the name here. And um I think with us still upholding this heavily capitalistic society that we still all live and run rules by, I think it's very important that we bring up the fact that, these discussions and topics, such as like Black Mirror and whatever, they're not fantasy in the sense of like they're so far away. They're fantasy in terms of concepts that s- try and translate what cannot be explained. But every day, I think, I don't know why we haven't seemed to grasp like this is where we're going. This is where we're heading. This is not gonna be like some sort of far future. I mean, you look at the elements of what's kind of present in terms of edge runners. And you see, as far and as close as it becomes, is like our bank accounts are being like our bodies start to become the characters in the show. Their bodies start to become more entwined with metal, more entwined with, the cybernetics and the electronic means of like speed of information being directly coded into your brain, like into your you know one of the best prevalent things is in the show, the more and more like metal and like processing speed that your like body is able to handle versus like they call it psychosis, where you can literally like your brain, the processing speed that your brain is able to move and how your body is able to move at speeds that obviously are not human, but even to their capacity, very fucking quickly can catch you in a state where you can literally go mad off of like what you can do. I mean, eventually we imagine your body becoming able to be able to handle gunfire. Imagine your body being able to you know send money through you know like a program that you open in your mind. Imagine um you being able to watch porn or whatever, like through VR headsets, and like experience 50 million like orgasms in like tenths of seconds, slowing down time because like you're you you process what's happening in reality way quicker than what's actually happening, so you're able to move at super fast speeds. And these are not just like concepts. These are probably these are like exactly what we have today, but just pushed to their utmost extreme limits. Like just trying to see how far we can really take all of this extreme indulgence. And it it lacks any sort of like creativity. It lacks any sort of um beauty, like the beauty and the aesthetic of the show. I mean, it derives from punk, which is also something of to be like really dark and kind of depressing. And it's very funny how cyberpunk kind of takes the aesthetic of very like bright and like colorful things, but in a very still makes it very grim, like very depressing, because it's the tone of we have all of this technology and we have all of these super specified things. And granted, I'm not somebody who thinks that you know some of the concepts can't or should not be used like intertwining with metal, because or think processing at super quick speeds, because I think at the end of the day, like not just because it's rooted in plants or nature doesn't necessarily mean it's good. And just because you have something super refined like metal doesn't necessarily make it bad either. But I think it's still the direction that we head in to with all of these things. That's why I like looking at concepts like solar punk, something where it has that techie feel. I mean, I've always been a tech kid. I always love shit like that. But It's more of the optimistic feelers that were actually tending towards things that help um the earth, you know, tend to actually have this optimistic look, this aesthetic look. But the point of it is, why aren't we heading in more of that direction? Where is the innovation to be heading towards things of that nature, opposed to, like, something where the cyberpunk is probably becoming more of like, yeah, this is gonna come true, versus, you know um something like solar punk, where it seems more to be an aesthetic. And I really want to gauge with people, especially with people in my age group, people who are very, talented or whatever they do, that we have to be able to advocate for these things. We also are the ones who are going to be putting these things in power. I mean, as much as I think that in some respects, older people are still holding these positions of power and doesn't want to give it to us because we have a different mindset towards things. I think at the end of the day, we need to recognize that where we have power to push towards better nature, for better futures, for better outcomes, for a more optimistic society, and for us to um, have or be brainwashed by, you know these concepts of hopelessness and depressing moods and, like, doomer mentality. It comes to me as well as in waves, you know but still, it's still necessary that we realize that we have power to change things and still be able to build a future. Forget about fucking love and all that shit, because I mean, you know as much as it does hurt, and I know a lot of a young they were still wanting to find somebody who kind of builds these futures with us. But at the end of the day, it's more of a societal problem where we need to figure out as a society and push towards living quality to be increased, so that, you know it doesn't end up a situation like David and Lucy, where you're kind of fighting um against this thing that is trying to consume you. We need to get rid of that thing first. Maybe it might not be um such a romanticized thing, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to get rid of this so that future people in our week don't have to deal with this situation as we have, because there might not be an instance where we can even begin to have a conception of love if this starts to go down the path that it still is. Because when you're so overflowed with all these things of, like, immaterial things like money and and sex and, like, just food and all this, like, shit just going straight to your brain, like, you kind of lose a sense of, like, okay, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna create? And yeah, I mean, I hope if any of y'all do decide to go watch it, I mean, I'm sure plenty of y'all have seen Wally as a kid. You know, you can't run away. You can't expect that space exploration or whatever that all like we can't run away from this shit. We have to be able to come up with better means for you know um for us to live, and we really need to come together as people and be able to fully like bring this shit together, yo. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Uh. You know, that's basically my little rant. Yeah. I hope everyone's having a good day. Um. I send positive energy and love to everyone who engages with this video, who resonates with what I'm saying, and yeah, comment on if you have anything that has resources or like ideas to put these things in motion or sorts of idea, shoot, comment on anything. Like, we want to hear that shit. We want to hear what you have to think. Um, Even if it might not be tangible, something give more concepts in the video of like something optimistic that we could probably use technology to be for, you know, because like like bro, we cannot let these depressing concepts we have to dream of new things, have to dream of new things, dream up of something different. And for a lot of us, we're stuck in what has come before and what has happened already because we're comfortable in that fact. We don't want to take the risk of like starting something new, and it is difficult to start something new, but we have to do it. We have to be able to dare to dream beyond what has already been done before and starting to reinvent new. um so yeah, I'm wondering to myself, like, I guess for an idea for me might be like, I don't know, like taking apart, learning how to take apart scraps like fans and electronics and shit, and learning how to like rewire that. How does that work? You know, you know, we have to start thinking of these things before it starts to get dire. A lot of our culture might really have the history of doing things until, you know, shit gets tense, but maybe we can stop to get ahead of the curve like that. I know a lot of us are stuck paying bills, but this is more crucial and just as important because it is for those new foundations that you will be able to step on to so that you won't be stuck in this shithole that you might be living through right now. All right, I'm gonna stop yapping. You all have a good day. I love every one of y'all, and good eye. Peace.